Start recording. Camera choose. Stop recording. Back. But camera chooser. Stop recording. Button. Voiceover off.
Howdy, everybody. We are coming to you live from my dining room with the wind whistling through it. I'm going to have to put you sideways today because the phone's plugged in due to a morning of online Zoom learning. Not for me, for the youngsters. Like you folks who are listening. Anyway, we are here from the wilds of my dining room. It's a nice sort of a day, but I need hydro and there's no hydro outside for the phone, so we're stuck inside recording this lovely little book. Anyway, it is the last Here's Hank book that I have at the moment. I ordered a couple more that we haven't had yet from C&IB, along with a plethora of Diary of a Wimpy Kids. So we should be well covered for those. I think I might have also ordered a couple of the My Weird School series ones that they had on there. So we should be covered. It should take us right into the summer if we're lucky. Hopefully we can go back to school in June, but I'm not going to hold my breath, and you probably shouldn't either unless you really like looking like a Smurf. Anyway, let's get the show on the road so we can get something done and you get your weekend started. Or I can get mine started, or someone can do something. Alrighty. Again, I'm dumping you sideways like that, but all you're doing is listening anyway. Who wants to watch some blind guy read a book, right? Right. Okay, here we go. Here's Hank. Always watch out for the flying potato salad by Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver. Illustrated by Scott Garrett. And as per the usual, it's in one volume. And nobody cares about the rest. Okay. Here's Hank. Always watch out for the flying potato salad. Chapter 1. Remember, everyone, tomorrow is Take Your Child to Work Day, Miss Flowers said to us after recess. Who's happy about that? Before I even thought about it, my hand shot up in the air. Would you like to tell us why, Hank? She asked. With that nice smile of hers. I'm happy because that means that we won't have a spelling test, I answered. Which is great for me because I have trouble with spelling the words. Especially the word window. I can only remember the first three letters, which are W-I-N. Win. That's a word that has nothing to do with you, zipper teeth, Nick McKelvey snarled, because you are a total loser. Nick, Miss Flowers said, we don't insult one another in this class. Now, tell me what your plans are for Friday. My dad's taking me to work at the new bowling alley, McKelvey said proudly. Are they going to use your head to knock down the pins, Nick? I asked. The class laughed. That felt good to me, but not to Miss Flowers. Hank, did you hear what I just said to Nick? We don't insult people in this class. My brain knows that, but my tongue forgot, I explained. The class laughed out loud again. Well, next time, have a talk with your tongue before you let it loose, she told me. I have to admit, Miss Flowers can be pretty funny herself. Anyone else want to use this time to share what they're doing for Take Your Child to Work Day, she asked. She was kind of looking at me when she asked that. Please don't call on me, I thought to myself. Call on anyone else but me. I don't have an answer to that one. Hank, Miss Flowers asked, what are your plans? The truth was, I didn't have any yet. I had tried to make plans. Actually, what I made was half a plan. I had asked my dad if I could go with him to work. He said that would be weird since he works at the dining room table, which is only about 20 steps from my bedroom. I won't even have to get out of my pajamas. So then I decided I would ask my mom if I could go to work at her deli, the Crunchy Pickle. But then, as always, my brain forgot to ask her that question. Miss Flowers was still standing there, waiting for my answer. My plans are a surprise, I said. What I didn't say was they were going to be a surprise for me, too. Oh, surprises are such fun, she said. I can't wait to hear you tell us all about it. You and me both, I thought. As usual, my best friend Frankie Townsend jumped in to save me. I'm going uptown with my dad to Columbia University. He's a professor there, and they're going to let me teach something to his class. How wonderful, Miss Flowers said. What are you going to teach? I've decided to show them how to pull a bunny out of a hat. Except I don't have a bunny, so I'm going to use a washcloth. Everyone laughed. Me being the loudest. Frankie always cracks me up, and I'm going to the hospital with my mom. My other best friend Ashley Wong chimed in. She's going to operate on someone. I hope she's a doctor, Katie Sperling said. Otherwise, it would be gross. Of course she's a doctor, Ashley said. If I watched an operation, I would faint all over the place, Katie said. I'm not going to watch, Ashley explained. They don't let kids in the operating room. I'm going to hang out at the nurse's station and help them deliver lunch trays to the patients. As everyone shared their plans, my mind was racing to try and figure out what I could do. Why didn't I ask my mother if I could help her? At Take Your Child to Work Day in the first place. It was such an easy question, but it was just sort of slipped out of my mind. My mind doesn't always remember little things like that. Actually, it has a hard time remembering big things, too. I'm lucky I remember where I live half the time. I have a special day planned, too, Miss Flowers said, leaning back against her desk with a smile. Principal Love is giving all the teachers a party. He's calling it a Teacher Appreciation Dinner. We're getting delicious food from the Crunchy Pickle delivered. Who wants pickles for dinner? Nick McKelty grumbled. That's just the name, I called out. It's my mom's deli, and it's got all kinds of something. All kinds of good food. Like pickles on toast, he snickered. Or French fried pickles. Or maybe pickle juice with chocolate sauce. Ew! Everyone was in the class said at once. Why is it that Nick McKelty is such a jerk, but can still make me feel so bad? My grandpa started the deli. I shot back. He picked the name because he always has pickles with his sandwich. By the way, they make delicious sandwiches there. And I'm certainly looking forward to one, Miss Flowers said. Tomorrow is going to be such a fun day for all of us. Maybe not for all of us, I thought. My dad had said no, so that left only my mom. It was her or nothing. Chapter 2. That night at dinner, I waited until dessert to bring up the topic. Mom, stay calm, I said, as she plopped down a bowl of purple goop in front of me. Whatever was in that bowl was pretending to be pudding, but it didn't fool me. I saw the little chunks of eggplant in there. I have something to ask you, and here it is. Can I go to work with you tomorrow? It's take your child to work day. Hank, why did you wait so long to ask me? That's a good question, Mom, and I wish I had an answer. But your answer has to be yes. Well, it's a very busy day tomorrow, my mom said, but you haven't left me much choice. I guess you can come. Mom, how come Hank gets to go to work with you and I don't? My little sister Emily demanded. As usual, Emily had her pet iguana, Catherine, draped around her neck. She was feeding her little bits of a disgusting brown banana, which Catherine was snapping up with her long pink tongue. Are you in Miss Flowers' class? I asked Emily. No, she answered. Are you a second grader? No. Is tomorrow take your child to work day in your class? No. Well then, Emily, you've answered your own question, I said. Oh, by the way, your lizard is spitting up banana. You might want to change your sweater. Come on, Catherine, Emily said. Mommy's gonna wipe off your chin. Emily stood up and headed toward the bedroom. Maybe you haven't noticed, I called after her, but your overgrown toad doesn't have a chin. Hank, my mom said. That's very hurtful. You know how close Emily and Catherine are. I was just saying the truth, I said. You know, Hank, my dad cleared his throat, like he was going to make a speech or something. You work in the deli tomorrow. You can't say everything that pops into your head. You have to be pleasant to the customers. You can't be rude like you were to Emily and Catherine. No problem, I answered her. I'm a people person. I'm never rude to humans. I save that for reptiles. Let's talk about what some of your responsibilities will be tomorrow, my mom said. Would you like to take the customers' orders? That seemed exciting and fun until I realized that I'd have to write down their orders, and that meant spelling. I'm pretty sure I know how to spell milk, and I have a shot at spelling bread correctly, but pastrami? No way, Jose. I was thinking, Mom, that something involving cream cheese might be good. I can fill up all those metal pans with different kinds of cream cheese and make cool swirls on top. I could even make a happy face with olives. This is a business, Hank, not an art project, my dad grumbled. You know what, my mom said? We don't have to talk about this anymore tonight. Boy, was I thankful for that. One of my dad's favorite dinner time topics is what I did wrong during the day and how I can improve. Since tomorrow is busy, my mom said, I'm just going to put Carlos in charge of you, Hank. She gave me a big smile. Don't worry, I know he'll find lots of interesting work for you to do. That sounded great. I went to bed thinking about all the fun I'd have getting to act like a real grown-up. In my mind, I made a list of what 1,000,000 fun things I could do in the deli tomorrow. All you have to do is turn the page to see a few of them. Chapter 3, 1,000,000 fun things I could do at the deli, by Hank Zitzer. Okay, it's not 1,000,000, it's 4, but I've never been good at math. Number 1. Try to scoop potato salad into a little paper cup without licking the spoon even once. 2. Squirt smiley faces on the sandwiches with the mustard bottle. Hey, I can even use a pickle slice for the nose. 3. See how many sprinkle cookies I can stuff into my mouth when no one is watching. My record is 4.5. I'm going for 5 this time. Number 4. Put on a talent show for customers. I can't sing, I can't dance, but I can burp my name. Number 5. I was starting at number 5, but I don't know what it is because I fell asleep. Chapter 4. I woke up early the next morning, all excited. I brushed my teeth. I brushed my hair, and even put some goop in it like a grown-up. I looked in the mirror to make sure that little hairs on my head were lying down. They were cooperating. Then I picked out a pair of socks and actually matched them. And to finish off the grown-up look, I chose a shirt that had no trace of yesterday's taco lunch on it. When I came up for breakfast, Emily laughed. You look like a mini dad, she said, except more dorky. You look like a maxi lizard, I shot back, except more slimy. For your information, Hank, lizards aren't slimy, Emily replied. They are shiny because they have natural oil in their scales. No breakfast for me, Mom, I called out. I just lost my appetite. My mom handed me a slice of toast with peanut butter on it anyway. You've got to eat something, she said. You need energy for the busy day ahead. My dad came running into the living room, pulling on his jacket. Let's move, folks, he said. We're running late. We all gathered our things, headed out the door, and got into the elevator. When we got outside, my dad and Emily headed right to school. My mom and I went the opposite way toward the Crunchy Pickle. The place was already buzzing when we got there. Lots of people were sitting in the booths having breakfast. Some people were waiting in line for an empty table. There was even a crowd at the counter where people were ordering a roll and coffee to take to their offices. My mom looked around the deli. I could see that she was feeling great that we had so many customers here. When she first took over the Crunchy Pickle from Papa Pete, she wasn't sure she would be good at running a deli, but wow, was she wrong. We've got to get busy, Hank, she said. It's the breakfast rush. Okay, Mom, I'm ready. What do we do first? I'm going to go wait on the customers at the counter. I'll put Carlos in charge of you. Come on. He's over there at the grill. My mom took my hand and we made our way across the crowd saying good morning to everyone we passed. We found Carlos at the grill flipping turkey sausages. They smoked on the grill and smelled delicious. I wanted one, but I knew it wasn't right to eat the customers' food. Carlos, who has worked at the deli since he was a teenager, turned around to say, hi. He had a lot of goop in his hair, too. He used it to make his hair stand up in tall spikes that poked out his hairnet. He must have seen me checking out his hair. I know what you're thinking, little man, he said, turning around. so I could see the back of his hair, too. You think my hair is as cool as an iceberg in winter. I couldn't agree more. The reason it's so cool is that I have a hot date with my girl tonight. Oh no, I said. Oh no, I said. If it's going to be hot, you should take off your sweater. Carlos stared at me and then burst out laughing. You have a lot to learn, little man, he said. Speaking of which, my mom said, Hank is going to be spending the day with us. I'd like you to put him to work. Sure thing, Mrs. Z, Carlos said. It's hopping in here, and we can sure use extra help. Good then. I'll leave Hank in your hands. She gave me a quick kiss, which I hope no one saw, and hurried off into the crowd of people. My mom still kisses me every time I leave the house, Carlos said. I asked her not to kiss me in public, I said. Moms are like that, Carlos said, taking the turkey sausages off the grill and sliding them onto a plate. Come on, little man. We've got a lot of breakfast orders to fill. What's first? I asked with a big smile. I'm going to scramble up a pile of eggs to go with the sausages, he said. Why don't you head over to the table, to table 7, and take their order? They'll be waiting a long time. They have been waiting a long time, actually. They look hungry. Carlos handed me a pad of paper and a pencil and hurried off into the kitchen. The second he was gone, the smile disappeared from my face. I stared at the pad and pencil and sighed. Wouldn't you know it, the one thing I knew I couldn't do was the one thing I was asked to do first. I took a deep breath and headed over to table 7. 3 men were sitting there, holding menus and talking. One had a mustache, one was bald, and one had a ponytail. I stood in front of them with my hands shaking. I hoped with all my might that they were only hungry for something I could smell. Chapter 5. I gave the 3 men my most grown-up smile. Hi, I'm Hank, I said. I'm new here. The man with the mustache looked up from his menu. Kinda short for a waiter, aren't you? He asked. For a second grader, I'm pretty average, I answered. Heather Payne is the tallest girl in our class, but most of us are this size. Now, what would you like? Mustache Man sighed and shut his menu. I'll have 2 eggs over easy, bacon crispy, fruit, 2 potatoes, and an English muffin. Hold the butter, he said. My ears nearly fell off my head. How was I supposed to write any of that down? I froze. I couldn't even write the word egg. All that came out of my pencil was an E. Okay. Hank, I told myself, don't panic. You'll just have to remember their order. You can do that. The bald man put his menu down and leaned forward. Blueberry waffle, hot raspberry syrup, extra melted butter, and a turkey sausage. I could feel his words going through my ears, but they just raced around my brain like a pinball. I looked over at the guy with the ponytail, hoping that he was not hungry. But, oh, was he ever. He wanted lunch for breakfast. I'll have your cheeseburger deluxe. Extra pickles. Russian dressing on a toasted bun. Deluxe? I've never even heard that word before. And why would you want to see a Russian person dressing? The bald man flashed me a smile. Look at you, smart kid, he said. You didn't even have to write any of our orders down. Now, sir, it's all up here, I said, pointing to my head. I dashed over to Carlos to give him the order, trying to remember their orders. Hey, little man, I'm busy, he said. I've got 8 omelets coming out for table 11. Give your order to Vladdy. He'll take care of that. Vladdy's a big man with so much hair on his arms, his skin looks like he's wearing a sweater. I've known him since I was little. Vladdy, I said, you have to listen to me first before I forget everything. In a giant rush of words, the order came spilling out of my mouth. Whoa, slow down, small fry, Vladdy said. That might be insulting coming from anyone else, but next to him, everyone was a small fry. I can't slow down, I told him, or I'm going to forget the whole thing. Vladdy listened and jotted down some notes. Strange order, he said, but your mother says the customer is always right. He shrugged and turned to the griddle and started to cook. I've got a lot of orders coming in, he said. You could really help me out by going back to the table and making sure the water glasses are full. I grabbed a pitcher of ice water. I had to use both hands because it was heavy. Holding it against my chest, I made my way over to table 7. Without spilling a drop, I was starting to get the hang of this waiter thing. I was also starting to have a frozen chest. More water, anyone? I asked. The men? Sure, that'd be great, the man with the mustache answered, barely stopping the joke he was telling to the others. His glass was pretty high up, and I was pretty low down. I stood on my tiptoes and pulled the glass to the edge of the table so I could reach it better. I lifted the pitcher with both hands and started to pour. Unfortunately, there was no glass in the area I was pouring. Water spilled out onto the table and dripped off the edge into the man's lap. He jumped up from his chair and screamed like he had seen a ghost or a mouse. I'm sorry, sir, I stammered. I guess being a waiter isn't as easy as it looks. Don't worry about it, kid, the man with the mustache said, picking up his napkin and dabbing at his pants. Every waiter's allowed one mistake. The other men were laughing. I was so glad they weren't angry at me. Just go see how our food's coming along, the guy with the ponytail said to me. Good idea, I answered. I'll leave the pitcher here so you can pour your own water. Good idea. Yourself, he said with a laugh. I hurried away before I could get into any more trouble. I looked around for my mom to see if she had noticed, but she was in the back of the deli talking to a delivery man. I was glad she hadn't seen that mess I had made with the pitcher. I would have been so embarrassed. I headed over to Vladdy to see if the order was ready. He was just finishing putting the food on the plates. "Let me help you carry this to the table, small fry," he said. "You take one plate and I'll carry two." As I hurried across the restaurant carrying the plate, I felt so proud. This was my first order ever. I set it down on the table in front of the bald man. Then I took each of the next two plates from Flatty and set them down in front of the other. Vladdy went back to the griddle, and I just stood there with a huge smile spread across my face. "I hope you like your meal," I said to them. The men were staring at their plates. "Why are there blueberries on my cheeseburger?" the man with the ponytail asked. "And pickles on my waffle," the bald man chimed in. "And hot raspberry syrup on my fried eggs," the man with the mustache said. Oh, this was not sounding good. I had told Vladdy the right food, but the wrong place to put it. We like to surprise our customers here," I said at last. "We make up our own combinations. It's what we here at the Crunchy Pickle call creative cooking. It's what I call horrible cooking," the man with the mustache said. "I can't eat this." "Me neither," said the man with the ponytail. "A blueberry cheeseburger is disgusting. Waffles with pickle juice will give me a stomachache," the bald man said. "This food has to go back." "Couldn't we just keep this little problem, just between us guys?" I whispered. "We can't pay for this," the man with the ponytail said. "We need to see the manager." "That would be my mom," I answered with a gulp. She's very busy right now." "Well, you tell her we need to speak with her," Mustache Man said. "We've been customers here for a long time, and we've never had a bad meal." This was worse than I thought. I was in big trouble now. Not only did I mess up, I messed up with my mom's best customers. I looked over at the counter and saw her standing there, handing a to-go cup of coffee to a man in a white shirt. He looked so happy. Oh, no, sorry, he didn't. She looked so happy. I think she could feel me looking at her because she caught my eye and flashed me a big smile. My stomach was suddenly full of butterflies. I knew that smile wasn't going to last very long. Chapter 6. "Mom," I said, walking up to her, "I want you to stay calm." "I don't like the sound of this," she said. She put down the coffee pot and put her hands on my shoulders. "You look serious," she said. "Last time I saw that look, you left the front door open and Cheerio ran away. Remember, we had to spend the whole afternoon searching the apartment building until we found him." "Yep. But it was so cute when we found him in the laundry room, all curled up in Mrs. Fink's warm clothes right out of the dryer," I said. Her sweat socks were hanging off his ears. "You've got to admit that was funny, Mom." I tried to laugh and hoped my mom did too. "Hank," she said. She didn't laugh, even a little bit. "You can't turn everything into a joke. This is my business, and we have to take it seriously. So, just tell me what happened." "It's about those men at table 7. They want to see you. I kinda messed up their orders, just a tiny bit." "How tiny is a little bit?" Let's just say there was pickle juice on their waffles. Oh, this isn't good. She shook her head. And blueberries on their cheeseburger. I thought I told Vladdy the right order, but she didn't even let me finish. She spun around and marched right over to the men. I hid behind the counter. I hid behind the bagel counter as I watched her talking to them. Her hands were flying all over the place, and I knew she was apologizing. My mom is so good at talking with people. I was sure she could make the men understand. I was positive. Right up to the moment they grabbed their jackets and walked out without paying. My mom was frowning as she walked back to me. How did it go? I asked hopefully. It went well for the diner down the... It went well for the diner down the block, she said. That's where they're going now. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. I said, it's my fault. You don't have to give me my allowance for the next 3 weeks. Hank, how did this happen, she asked. Those 3 men always wanted a lot of food. I said the words just pouring out of my mouth, and I couldn't write it down quickly enough, and even if I could, I didn't know how to spell a lot of it. Syrup or sausage. So I tried to remember it all in my head, but my head wasn't cooperating, and it got it all mixed up. I understand, but what you did was wrong, she said. If you knew you couldn't remember the order, you should have asked for help. If you know you can't do something, don't try to do it. I asked for help, and I'm the manager. That was easy for her to say. She almost never has to ask for help. There's so many things I can't do that I'd be asking for help every 2 seconds. And that's embarrassing. Just then, the front door opened, and my grandfather, Papa Pete, burst in. He was wearing his favorite red sweatsuit that makes him look like a giant strawberry. Oh, here's my favorite grandson, he said, giving me a bear hug. I'm your only grandson, Papa Pete. Which is exactly why you're my favorite, he said, and let out a big laugh. That laugh changed my whole mood. Hank is working here today, my mom said, and we're looking for a job he'd be comfortable doing. I know exactly what Hank should do, Papa Pete said. I used to run this place, remember? And not to brag, but I was known as the king of the triple-decker sandwich. How would you like to learn how to make one of those, Hanky? Could I, Mom? I asked. Sure, she said. That sounds like a great job for you. I'll be busy filling the order for the teacher appreciation dinner that Papa Pete is in charge of you. So Papa Pete's in charge of you. Don't worry about Hanky and me, Papa Pete said. Then, turning to me, he added, step into my office, youngster, and I'll teach you the tricks of the trade. I followed Papa Pete over to the sandwich maker area, where Vladdy and Carlos were starting to prepare for the lunch rush. Vladdy, my good man, Papa Pete said, slapping him on the back. Nice to see you. Welcome back, Papa Pete, Vladdy said. We miss you around here. Yeah, Carlos chimed in. There's no one to give us advice about girls, except Vladdy. Last week, he told me that I'd rather... What in the world? Yeah, Carlos chimed in. There's no one to give me advice about girls. Except Vladdy. Last week, he told me that I'd rather brush instead of... What is happening here? Hold on. It's hard to read when it's kind of rubbed down. Last week he told me that instead of bringing my date flowers, I should just bring her a pint of radishes in sour cream. How did that work out for you? Papa Pete asked. It was a very short date, Carlos said. I got to her house at 7 and on the subway heading home by 7:30. Well, if you gentlemen will give us some room, Papa Pete said, I'm about to teach my grandson the secrets of the triple-decker sandwich. We hardly had any time to get started on our lesson because a customer came hurrying up to the sandwich counter. It was Bruce, who delivers mail to the buildings in our neighborhood. Hi guys, Bruce said. I delivered so much mail this morning, I worked up quite an appetite. Could you get me a salami, cheese, fried egg, triple-decker as fast as you can? Papa Pete, can you take this? Carlos asked. I'm going to go wipe down the tables for lunch. And I'll go help the people in the booth by the window, Vladdy said. They looked hungry. Papa Pete and I got busy on Bruce's sandwich. Putting the salami and cheese on the bread was pretty easy. The fried egg part was tricky. Hanky, bring me an egg, Papa Pete said, dropping a blob of butter on the grill. I went to the bowl where we kept the eggs and picked one up. I reached out my hand to Papa Pete, but he let it go before he grabbed the egg. We both watched the egg fall through the air and land splat on his shoes. Papa Pete didn't even get mad. That's okay, he said, wiping the egg yolk off his shoes. This is going to make my shoes so shiny they'll glow in the dark. Papa Pete fried up a new egg and let me scoop it onto the sandwich and stick a toothpick in each half to hold it together. We handed it to Bruce, and before he even reached for the cash register to pay, we had another customer. It was Lonnie, who worked at the nail salon down the block. How about a nice triple-decker for you, Papa Pete said. I got some rare roast beef right here. I don't eat meat, Lonnie said. How about a fried egg sandwich? I suggested to her. I just learned how to handle that. Okay, she said. On oat bread. This time, when I took the eggs out of the bowl, I made sure to put them directly into Papa Pete's hand. I was really catching on to this sandwich thing. I did have a little problem sticking the toothpick into each half. I kind of forgot that egg yolks can drip all over the place. And the sandwich was kind of wet. But Papa Pete said that's what egg yolks are supposed to do. After Lonnie left and the line got even longer at the sandwich counter, Carlos and Vladdy came over to help us until my mom showed up looking stressed. I need your help, she said to Papa Pete. The meat slicing machine is acting up. Can you come take a look at it? It needs your special touch. You want me to help too, Mom? I asked. The early lunch customers are coming in right now, she said. You would be a big help staying right here and making sandwiches with Carlos and Vladdy. Great. I'm an expert at making sandwiches now, I said. You're going to have to concentrate, Hank. Lunchtime is really busy here. That sounded exciting. I could already see myself standing in between Carlos and Vladdy, passing sliced roast beef to my right and salami to the left. Or maybe it was the other way around. I could never get the left and right thing down. Papa Pete and my mom hurried to the back room of the deli, and I took my place at the sandwich counter. Bring on the crowd, I thought to myself. Hank Zipser is on the case. My mind must be really good at magic, because as soon as I had the thought, presto, the front door swung open, and with our next customers. Uh-oh, my mind must have used some bad magic, because standing there at the front door was a stink bomb in human form. Chapter 7. The stink bomb's name was Nick McKelty. He was with his dad, who had a really unhappy look on his face. I couldn't blame him. I'd have the same look too if I had to spend an entire day with Nick the Tick. Carlos was busy making a ham and cheese sandwich. Do me a favor, little man, he said. Go seat those people and give them a menu. Oh no. I was going to have to wait on Nick McKelty. I'd rather ski down Mount Everest naked in a blizzard. I see that table 7 is empty, Carlos said. That's them there. Seat them there. Double oh no. Table 7. Bad things happened there. That was definitely not my lucky table. How about if I finish the sandwich and you show them to the table, I suggested. No can do, he said. You can't use the knife. Mom's orders. I picked up 2 menus and walked as slowly as I could toward the front door. When McKelty saw me, he burst out laughing. What a boring job handing out menus, he whispered in my ear. Thanks, Nick. It's nice to see you too, I whispered back. I thought you'd be spraying anti-stink stuff into the bowling shoes. Hello, Hank, Nick's father said. I see you're helping your mom on take your child to work day, eh? Nick and I were at the bowling alley having a fun day, too, until the atomic pin setter broke down. We thought we'd grab some lunch while they were fixing it. Let me show you 2 to your table, I said. Really? You can do that? Nick snorted. Aren't you the one who always gets lost? I didn't answer, just made my way over to table 7. I wanted to stick my foot out and trip the big creep, but I knew that wouldn't be right. Is this the best table you have? Nick asked. It's too close to the door. No, on second thought, I should have tripped him. Mr. McKelty didn't look pleased with his son. "This table is just fine, Hank," he said to me. "I'm sure Nick would agree. Don't you, Nick?" "Fine. Let's just order," Nick said, taking a seat. "What do you have that's any good?" "Everything on the menu," I answered. "But today we're making some pretty great triple-deckers." "Sounds fabulous," Mr. McKelty said. We'll each take one. Why don't you surprise us with your best combination, Hank?" As I walked back to Carlos, I thought about what I'd like to make for Nick's special sandwich. I came up with onion, mustard, crushed shrimp shells, and day-old bologna piled high on a stale bread. Oh, and don't let me forget the moldy cheese to top it off. I gave my suggestion to Carlos, but he just laughed. "What do you have against those people?" he said. "Mr. McKelty is really nice," I said, "but his son, Nick, is the class bully. And the only person he likes to bully most is me." "I see where you're coming from," Carlos said, "but remember, we're the crunchy pickle, and we have a responsibility. We have a reputation to protect here. You know our motto. Our sandwiches are almost too good to eat." "You're right," I said. "That's maybe one of our delicious sandwiches will put Nick in a better mood." "I like the way you're thinking, little man," Carlos said. So what do you say we make your pal a nice pastrami sandwich with cheese and coleslaw? Triple decker. We'll make his dad a roast beef, cheddar cheese, and coleslaw. I have to go get some fresh rye bread. While I'm gone, you can get me a sliced pastrami over there on the wax paper. That seemed easy enough. And the piled up pastrami was just a few feet away, sitting on the counter waiting for me. The walk over to it was smooth sailing. 3, maybe 4 steps. Picking it up was no problem. I grabbed the wax paper from the bottom. I could feel the steamy warmth of the pastrami against my palm. I leaned over and took a big whiff. Man, did it smell delicious! That was the exact moment I realized that I can't smell and watch as I'm going at the same time. I didn't notice that there was a slice of tomato that had dropped onto the floor. My feet went sliding out from under me, and the pastrami left my hands, all on its own, and decided to land on the floor too. As I looked down at the pastrami that was supposed to be in Nick McKelty's sandwich, I thought of all the things I could do with it. The list popped into my head, made me laugh out loud. Chapter 8, 4 Things I Can Do to Nick the Tick's Pastrami Sandwich, by Hank Zipser. 1. I could tell Carlos that I dropped it, and he would place a new... I could tell Carlos that I dropped it, and he could slice a new pile. I could step on it with my sneaker and grind it around a little bit before putting it on his sandwich. 3. I could pick it up, throw it back down again, and then put it on the sandwich. Number 4, I could pick it up, wash it off, pat it dry, then put it on the sandwich. Which of the 4 things do you think I did? Chapter 9. As much as I wanted to squish the pastrami with my sneakers and then serve it to Nick the Tick, a little voice inside me said, "You can't do that at your mom's restaurant. You don't know my mom, but she's a clean freak. At home, she vacuums under the couch first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Those poor dust balls never even had a chance to get to know one another under there." That same little voice inside me didn't stop there. It went on to say that squishing the pastrami under my feet would be a really mean thing to do. That little voice had so much to say that I decided I had better listen to it. I bent down and picked up the pile of pastrami and popped it back on the wax paper. I wiped off as much of the tomato slice as I could and walked over to the sink. I turned on the water, not too hot and not too cold. Then I held the pastrami under it. To be sure I got it really clean, I added just one tiny drop of liquid soap. There were 2 bottles of soap there. One smelled like coconuts. The other smelled like roses. I picked the coconut one. I thought it would give the pastrami a nice, fruity taste. Let me just say this. It's amazing how many bubbles one little drop of soap can make. The pastrami looked like it swallowed a bubble maker. I quickly looked over at my shoulder to see if Carlos was on his way back. He was. As fast as I could, I rinsed the bubbles off one more time and tossed the meat onto a paper towel to dry it. "Hey, little man," Carlos said, looking at the paper towel. "You don't have to dry off our pastrami. People like it when it's juicy." "Oh, then McKelty's going to love this pile," I said. Carlos made the 2 triple-decker sandwiches in no time. On Nick's, he piled on my pastrami, a glob of coleslaw, and some Swiss cheese. On Mr. McKelty's sandwich, he put roast beef, cheddar cheese, and another blob of coleslaw. Dropping 2 pickles on each of the plates, he said, "If you carry one, I'll take the other." Teamwork, little man, that's what it's all about. Carlos handed me the plate with Nick's sandwich, and he took Mr. McKelty's. As we crossed the restaurant, I glanced over at Nick's sandwich. I thought that I saw a tiny bubble squirting out from the meat. Could it be? No, not possible. I rinsed that pastrami really well. At least, I think I did. I hope I did. I'm sure I did. Well, pretty sure anyway. "Here you go, gentlemen," Carlos said to the McKeltys as he slid his plate onto the table. "The best looking sandwiches in the city." If I do say so myself, 2 of the best looking guys in the city. Carlos tapped the top of his spiky hair and flashed a confident smile. Mr. McKelty let out a friendly laugh. Then he picked up his sandwich. "I can't wait to dig into this beauty, he said. Nick the Tick had already dug into his. Even though his mouth was the size of a dinosaur cave, he could only fit in 2 of the 3 layers. One of them was the pastrami layer. I held my breath while he started to chew. All of a sudden, he wrinkled up his nose, his mouth, then his entire face. He looked like the raisin you leave behind in your cereal bowl. "Ugh," he said, spitting some pastrami into his hand. "This meat tastes tastes like coconuts." As he spoke, a thin bubble flew out of his mouth and popped into the air. "Coconuts?" Carlos said with a laugh. You've got some imagination, kid." Carlos turned to Mr. McKelty. "How's the roast beef?" "Tastes like roast beef to me," Mr. McKelty answered. "That's what I'm talking about," Carlos said. While they were chatting, I glanced back at Nick to see more bubbles drift out of his mouth. "What did you put in here, Zipperhead?" McKelty said. "This is the worst sandwich I've ever had." And he threw the sandwich down onto the table, missing the plate entirely. "Nick," his father said, "that is a very rude thing to do." "I agree with you," Carlos said. "I'm riding the same train you are." Nick stood up, picked up his napkin, and spit out what was in his mouth. "That's what I think of your sandwich," he said, staring at me. A little drool slid down the side of his mouth. "That's it," Mr. McKelty said. "Even if you don't like the taste of your sandwich, this is not the way we behave in a restaurant. May we just have our bill, please?" Obviously, my son needs a lesson in manners before we go out to lunch again. Carlos grabbed the plates and went back to the counter to prepare the bill. McKelty frowned at me, but I just gave him the old Zipser smile. As I turned to walk away, I could hear his father saying, "That Hank's a nice boy. You two should be friends. You could learn a few things from him." "Yeah. Like how to flunk a spelling test," McKelty said. "He's good at that." Normally, a comment like that would hurt my feelings, but this time it didn't. I had the last laugh. Chapter 10. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, I was so tired, all I wanted to do was lie down and take a nap. I snuck over to one of the empty booths and flopped down. I was all curled up on the leather, ready to drop off to dreamland, when I felt someone shaking my shoulder. It was Frankie and Ashley. "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" I yawned. "My dad dropped us off so we could see how your day was going," Frankie said. "We could even help if you wanted, and then we could all walk home together." "What's if you could use some help anyway?" Ashley said. "You look pooped." "I worked hard," I said. "How about you guys?" "I had such a fun day," Frankie said. "I did a magic trick for my dad's students." "Did you pull a washcloth out of the top hat?" I asked him. "Yep, I did. But the biggest hit was when I popped a scarf out of my nose." "Ew, that sounds painful," Ashley said. We all cracked up. My father was really fun too, Ashley said. Oh, sorry, my day was really fun too, Ashley said. I passed out lunch trays and apple juice to so many nice people. Mrs. Ruiz in room 226 taught me how to make red and white fairy wands out of a plastic straw. I hope she gets better soon. Me too, I said. How can I go back to sleep? No, you can't, a voice said. It was my mom who had come out from the kitchen. I really need your help, Hank, she went on, and I'm glad you two showed up too. We're going to need all the help we can get to finish the platters in time so your teachers can have their good dinner. That sounds exciting, Ashley said. I'm in, Frankie agreed. Great. Go to my office and call your parents. Tell them Papa Pete will bring you home after we drop off the food at school. Hank, let's get you busy on the potato salad. I'm on it, Mom. Just one thing. I have no idea how to make potato salad. It's already made, she said. You just have to scoop it into a big bowl and sprinkle some parsley on top. I'm on it, Mom. Oh, by the way, what's parsley? My mom sighed. Come on, let's go find Papa Pete. In the back room, she said. He'll explain it all to you. The back room was as busy as a beehive. Everybody was working as fast as they could. Papa Pete was making the meat platters. Vladdy was in charge of the cheese. Carlos was arranging different kinds of bread in a circle on the tray. Papa Pete, my mom called out. Please show Hank how to add the finishing touches to the potato salad. Frankie and Ashley will be in to help as soon as they call their parents. I'll take care of any customers out front while you handle and load the minivan. Papa Pete gave me an ice cream scoop. This is what you use to scoop this potato salad into the serving bowl, he explained. Make sure the bowl is nice and full. Then sprinkle some chopped parsley on the top. That's the green stuff in this baggie. I looked at the baggie and saw little bunches of a leafy green thing. I recognized it right away. Oh, so that's parsley, I said. I thought it was called the green stuff on the side of the plate that no one eats. Papa Pete burst out laughing and gave me a big hug. That's my hanky, he said. You always see things your own way, don't you? Frankie and Ashley hurried in and got busy. Ashley put the pickles around the meat platter. She loves to do art projects, so she arranged the pickles to look like the meat was wearing a suit, or a skirt, sorry. Frankie just was put in charge of squirting mustard and ketchup from big bottles into smaller serving bowls. Every time he squirted one of his bottles, it made a farting sound, and every time it did it, we burst out laughing. Hey people, Carlos said. One day you'll learn that laughing at fart sounds, oh stop it, is definitely not. One day you'll learn that laughing at fart sounds is definitely uncool. But it's so funny, we told him. Maybe when you're 9, he said, but You better grow out of that, or you're going to have trouble getting a date on Saturday nights. We just looked at one another and wondered what he was talking about. Who wants a date on Saturday night? It's much more fun to build a pillow fort on the couch and watch a monster movie. Papa Pete said it was time to load the minivan. We got to move fast, folks, he said. We have just enough time to get to PS 87. Everyone grabbed their tray or bowl and raced into the alley where the minivan was parked. We handed each plate of food to Papa Pete, who slid them onto the shelves in the back of the van. Moving quickly, he pulled a bright red bungee cord across each shelf so the food wouldn't slide off. Sorry, the braille in this is horrendous. It's all faded for some reason. It's like somebody erased half of it. Oh well. Who's coming with me to deliver this? Papa Pete called out. We are, I cried. I looked over at Frankie and Ashley, and they nodded their heads as fast as they could. We all piled into the back seat and had our safety belts on in no time at all. Carlos jumped into the passenger side. Papa Pete looked at his watch as he climbed in behind the wheel. It's going to be tight, he said. I'm counting on you to get us there in time, Carlos said, and to get us out of there too. I have a hot date. I'll try my best, said Papa Pete. We pulled out of the alley into 77th Street and turned onto Broadway with no problem until we reached a huge cement mixer that was stopped in the middle of the street. It was totally blocking us. Papa Pete leaned out the window to see what was going on. I think that truck is trying to turn around, he said, but he doesn't have room to back up. Can we take another street? I asked. Papa Pete turned and looked out the back window. There were cars lined up behind us as far as we could see. No. We're boxed in, Papa Pete said. There's nothing we can do now but wait. Frankie looked at his watch. Not to stress you out or anything, Papa Pete, but we're now officially late, he said. Maybe this isn't the time to point that out, dude, Carlos whispered to him. This could take forever, Papa Pete muttered. I hope the teachers don't leave, I said. Shh, Ashley said to me. You're not helping. That monster truck was not going anywhere soon. There we were, like Santa Claus on Christmas with a sleigh full of goodies, and we were stuck at the North Pole. Chapter 11. If you've ever been in a traffic jam in New York City, let me tell you this. It's really loud. Everybody honks their horns at the same time, hoping that the car in front of them will move. But it never does, because it has no place to go. We spent 15 minutes listening to everyone honking at the cement mixer. Papa Pete doesn't believe in honking, but he does believe in shouting. He stuck his head out the window and trying to explain our situation. "Hey, buddy," he called out to the driver, "I've got hungry teachers waiting. You've got to get a move on here." "I'm trying, Pops," the driver said. "Just got to back this buggy up a few more inches so I can make the turn. Oh, and say hi to the teachers for me. My wife's a teacher." By the time we got to PS 87, it was 17 minutes after 4 o'clock. I knew that from reading the digital clock on the dashboard in Papa Pete's van. I still can't read a regular clock very well. If you ask me, the little hand isn't so little and the big hand isn't so big. In other words, they both look the same to me. The teacher's appreciation dinner was in the multi-purpose room. It's a really good thing it's on the front, so we didn't have to go up any steps. We were all carrying lots of stuff. My job was to carry the bowl of potato salad. Ashley had the coleslaw. Frankie got the easy job, which was taking the ketchup and mustard bowls. Papa Pete carried the meat platters, and Carlos took cheese. "You lead the way, Hanky," Papa Pete said. "We were right behind you." We passed Principal Love's office, and the nurse's office, and the bulletin board with the kindergartner's class self-portraits on it. They were all looking like they had arms growing out of their ears. I wanted to laugh, but I stopped myself because I didn't want to take any chances on dropping the potato salad. When we got to the end of the hall, I saw the doors to the multi-purpose room were open. There were lots of teachers inside, sitting on both sides of a big long table. They were drinking fruit punch. At one end of the table, there was plates all stacked up, looking empty and lonely. As usual, Principal Love was talking, probably giving one of his big long speeches. I noticed a few of the teachers were yawning, which is what I always do when he talks. "Dinner has arrived," Papa Pete shouted out. "We're here to tackle your taste buds." "Well, bring it in, folks," Principal Love said. "As I always say, put good food and empty plates together, and you get a plate full of good food." No one ever understands what Principal Love says or why he says it, but teachers were too hungry to care. When they saw us coming in with all the platters, they burst into applause. It felt great to make them so happy. I looked around the room and saw Miss Flowers applauding the loudest. She gave me the big Miss Flowers smile that makes you feel so good. Then she waved. "Hi, Hank," she called out. "Hi, Frankie and Ashley." "Hi, Miss Flowers," I called back. I should have stopped right there, but I didn't. I took my hand off the bowl of potato salad and waved back at her. "Hank, what do you think?" The bowl of potato salad slipped out of my arms. I tried to catch it in midair to keep it from falling, but that didn't work. In fact, that was the opposite. It had the opposite effect. My hands hit it like a volleyball, and it sailed into the air. We learned in our science unit that whatever goes up must come down. And I'm here to say that goes double for potato salad. Chapter 12. Every bit of potato salad, including the chopped parsley, flew out of the bowl like it was a jet plane. When it hit the floor, it splattered all over the place. A slippery, goopy carpet. After that, everything happened very quickly. Ashley, who was following right behind me, stepped smack in the middle of the potato salad. Her bowl of coleslaw flew into the air and landed with a splat on top of the potato salad behind her. Frankie, you guessed it. His ketchup and mustard added color to the potato salad mountain that was rising up on the floor. Then, Carlos stepped right in the middle of the mess and slid around like he was on ice skates. Whoa, I heard him shout. I'm going down. And with that, his legs flew out from under him and he plopped right down on his butt. His pants, which were black, suddenly turned yellow, red, white, and creamy. His first reaction was to reach up and touch his shiny hair. Did I get any potato salad in my hair? He asked. Papa Pete was right behind Carlos with the meat platter. Luckily, he didn't fall down, but the salami did. A pile of it landed right on Carlos's head. It looked like he was wearing a meat hat. I can't go on a date like this, he shouted. I looked like a walking deli sandwich. Carlos wasn't the only one who was upset. I stared at the mess on the floor and realized I had just ruined the teacher's party. Why didn't I remember that carrying a big bowl of potato salad takes 2 hands? This kind of thing happens to me a lot. I'm always in the middle of trouble, and I never know how I got there. The teachers just stood there with their mouths hanging open. This wasn't the kind of mess you could fix with a couple of paper towels. This was going to take a shovel. Principal Love was on his feet. The mole on his cheek, which looks like the Statue of Liberty without the torch, was bouncing up and down like it was on a trampoline. Look what you've done, Hank Zipser, he shouted. Instead of giving your teachers a delicious meal, you've created a sloppy mess. This is ridiculous. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. My face turned as red as the ketchup that was all over my shoes. I'm sorry, I said. I was just trying to wave hello. You never think before you act, he said. Whoa, that's harsh, Carlos said. Papa Pete put down the half-empty meat platter and walked over to Principal Love. What do you think he's going to say? Ashley whispered to me. I don't know, but I hope I don't get in trouble for it. Don't worry, Frankie said. Papa Pete will handle this. He never lets us down. Excuse me, Papa Pete said to Principal Love. His voice was very calm. What happened here was an accident. And I'm so sorry about it, he said. It was all my fault. It was an accident, Hanky? It was an accident, Hanky, Papa Pete said. It isn't anyone's fault. That's why they call them accidents. Nonsense, a teacher named Mrs. Adolph said. Everyone in school knows that she's the meanest teacher we have. I saw what happened with my very own eyes. That boy, that was careless. My grandson Hank is a very thoughtful person. Sometimes he gets excited, and that causes problems. But he always tries his hardest to do the right thing. I agree, Miss Flowers said. Hank is always the first one in my class to raise his hand when I ask for help. And he tries very hard in my music class, Mr. Rock said. He plays the triangle with all his heart. Principal Love still seemed angry. His mole looked like it was doing the hula. Do you consider this a party? He grumbled to Papa Pete. With most of the food on the floor, I just happen to have several trays of black and white cookies in the van, Papa Pete said. How about if we bring those up? Oh, that's my favorite kind of cookie, Miss Flowers said. A lot of the teachers agreed. Me too, I said. Hey, I got an idea. We can have a reverse dinner. We'll do dessert first. Good thinking, Hanky, Papa Pete said. While everyone is enjoying the cookies, Carlos and I will go back to the deli and bring some meatloaf and macaroni and cheese. We already prepared it for the dinner crowd. Let me remind you, Carlos has a hot date, Carlos said, shaking his head. Come on, Carlos, I whispered to him. I really need you to do this for me. Okay, little man, he said. I'm going to do this for you. But if my girlfriend, Ramona, doesn't talk to me again because I'm late, you've got to call her and explain. No problem, Frankie said. Hank can talk his way out of anything. Yeah, he's got a magical mouth, Ashley chimed in. This is certainly not the teacher appreciation dinner we had planned, Principal Love said. A dessert first dinner is a very strange way to get your teachers to know how you appreciate them. Actually, Principal Love, Miss Flowers said, I find this a creative way to say thank you. Everyone loves cookies, don't you? All the teachers nodded in agreement. And Hank's idea to have a reverse dinner is very original. It shows that his mind is always working. I felt so good when she said that out loud to everyone. My mouth opened all by itself, and my brain, without my brain even telling it to. And this is what came out. Miss Flowers, you are the best second grade teacher in the whole world. I said, no matter what mistake I make, you're always the first one to understand. You never make me feel stupid just because I can't spell or do math. And you teach me lots of interesting stuff. Like, if you lift a kangaroo's tail off the ground, it can't hop. Everybody burst out laughing. Everybody but Miss Flowers. She stood up and came over to me. Hank, she said, you have given me the best teacher appreciation dinner any teacher could ask for. Even if the potato salad is all over the floor, I said. Yes, even then. What's a little mess? What's a little mess compared to the wonderful feeling you just expressed. Whoa, Carlos said. I think I'm going to cry. And it's not good to show up on a date with watery eyes. Everybody smiled. I think I might even see a mini smile on Principal Love's face. You're a great kid, Mr. Rock called out. That remains to be seen, Miss Adolph said. Wait until he gets to my 4th grade class, then we'll see how great he is. Just the sound of her voice made me shake in my sneakers. Hank, Miss Flowers said, I so appreciate your appreciation. You remind me why being a teacher is such a great job. You have a good heart, and that's what I appreciate most about you. And even though I had made a big mistake with the potato salad, all the teachers stood up and applauded. Wow, that was a surprise. I never expected that teacher appreciation dinner would turn into a student appreciation dinner too. Potato salad and all. Chapter 13. 5 things I learned from taking 5 things I learned from Take Your Child to Work Day by Hank Zipzer. Number 1. Never wave while you're carrying a bowl of potato salad. Number 2. If you're washing a pile of pastrami, don't use soap. Number 3. Be nice to the person who's taking your order in a restaurant. Maybe they have trouble spelling just like me. Number 4. Customers don't like it when you take a bite out of their pickle before they do. And number 5. Going to work is hard work. The end. Well, that's a wrap for that. Sorry about the quality of the braille, even though it's technically not my fault. It's kind of rubbed down, makes it hard to read, but what do you do? We got through it, and that's all that matters. So, have yourselves a good weekend, and we'll be back in a week or two, probably a week, with, I'm going to guess, another one of the My Weird School books with Arlo and the gang. Until then, see ya.
Voiceover on. YouTube. Camera chooser. Stop recording.